Good afternoon and welcome to Bull Market Talk Show. This is your host, Rian Hobson, and we actually have a bump-up show today where we will look at it is the British pound move that was actually happened for 8 hours a bit straight. If you look at the 4-hour candles, it actually just flew up. And then we will also look at the monetary policy statement of the ECB that will be out at 1:45 South African time. And then we will look at the the PPI number that came out of China. That was quite a hefty number that came out there. And then lastly, we will look at the rise of the United States dollar and what the hell is going on there. And the big question is, will it actually persist after the break?
Keep your finger on the market pulse with the News Alerts tool. Stay up to date on the latest sentiment across all the major asset classes. Uncover bullish or bearish signals tied to specific assets that could be developing before major price moves, and track how news sentiment correlated with price in the past. Track the news volume on an asset, its fear index, and get a better feel for its underlying strength. All with News Alerts, your central hub for market information. That's higher trading from MarketsX.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Bull Market Talk Show. This is your host, Rian Hobson, and we actually doing the rise of the US dollar. That will be later on. But first, we need to look at the British pound and that wild move that the British pound that actually made. Someone was actually asking me that to check on what is actually happening with the British pound. But before I go on, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube page. Drop your questions if you have any, like what the viewer was, what he did. Actually, he gave me actually a question before the show, and now I will definitely answer him. Please do like the show and don't forget to subscribe. And there's a link below. Please click on it, registeronmarkets.com, and you will get actually a free account. And make sure that you fund it with $250. And then also I will actually give you absolutely free classes. Let's start actually with the whole story of the British. That was now a big move actually this morning. Now, if you can look actually there, the British pound, this is now on the 4-hour chart. It actually went two heavy candles that actually moved up there. And actually the viewer was actually hit off guard with this move of the British pound. Now, if you look yesterday, it started already with this huge pullback that actually happened there yesterday, and then it just actually continued. Now, this is on the 1 day that I actually explained now the other part. Now, this had to do with the Bank of England's statement, or the governor of the Bank of England that actually made this weird statement. I believe minimum conditions for a rate increase have been met, but that they are insufficient to warrant one. Now, only God knows what the hell was he actually saying there. Now, just because he was saying, I believe minimum conditions for a rate increase have been met, I think that is where that pullback actually happened yesterday there, and that is where the trend actually continued. Now, will this continue? Honestly, I'm not sure. But you can look there at the 50-day EMA. It's actually just hit there on the 1-day chart. So honestly, with that confused statement, I was looking at it yesterday. But with that confused statement, I did not pay attention to that at all, because obviously you can't just say one thing, that there is, in this instance, there is actually a case for the rate increase, but then inefficient to warrant one. So I did not pay attention to that. So for the viewer, honestly, if you look at that 1-day chart there, I think it's stuck there by the 50-day EMA, and that's why we will see on a 4-hour candle. On a 4-hour chart, that there is a bit of a pullback there. That also have to do now with the ECB statement that will get released at 1:45 South African time. Now, this morning, there was actually China's commodity prices pushed factory gate inflation to rise at the fastest pace in 13 years. Now, if you minus 13 years, then you get to 2008. Where actually inflation was skyrocketing, and then that was the cause of the recession in 2008. Now, the numbers came out this morning. The forecast was at 9%. The price producer index, or the PPI, came out at 9.5%. So which means China is literally transporting now inflation across the world, because obviously China's producer stuff is becoming expensive. It means that everybody in the world that buys stuff from China, which basically is everybody, will definitely pay more for their goods. That is now for electronics and any other stuff that get bought from China because of that producer price index number that came out. That was actually a very important number. I was surprised why gold did not go up. Although it did start to go up, but I was surprised that it didn't actually flew up because of that number that actually came out this morning. On the other side, also, if I just share my screen again, the European stocks is actually in the red for now. That is all to do with the ECB statement that is actually will get released at 1:45. Now, there's a bit of a question mark that goes on there. Will the ECB start to taper or will they not? Now, there were hawks that came out from the ECB that actually stated that there needs to be tapering because of inflation that got to 3%. But will the ECB actually start to taper? That is a big thing, because obviously, if they start to taper, then that means that the stocks will actually, there's a possibility that the stocks will go down, and then you get the euro that will go up. If the ECB does not taper or talk about tapering, then obviously the euro will go down, and then you will have the DAX or the European stock that will go up, and obviously global stocks that will also go up. And there's also the potential that gold might go up because there's a lot of money that goes into the system. Now, that will get released at 1:45. But the big question is, will Christine Lagarde, will she come out and talk about tapering? Personally, I think she will not do it, because there is two ways how the ECB is actually stimulating the economy. One is through the purchase asset program or the asset purchase program, and then there's the PPE emergency is something that they stimulate the economy through. Now, those are the two things that they stimulate the economy through. And honestly, I don't think they will do it. I think they will also go up with the same story that it is transitory. She did talk about that before, that is transitory, and I think personally she will do exactly the same as what the other central banks did for this whole entire week. One was the Bank of Canada yesterday. They're talking about transitory. The other one was the Australian, the Reserve Bank of Australia, same story. They were talking about transitory. So I think we will get exactly the same result today from Christine Lagarde, where she said it will be transitory. Now, what will happen after she mentioned the words of transitory and maybe there will be tapering? Now, this is actually the story what happened for the last few days, and this is the main issue of the day. This has to do with the 10-year Treasury yields mark a 2-month high, threatening the 1.4 as investors return from holiday. Now, this happened actually on Monday. There was a public holiday in the United States. And then on Tuesday, the dollar started to rise. Now, that had to do with the U.S. bond market, I would say the bond yields that started to go up. Now, I always tell traders that they need to watch at the bond yields. If it starts to move rapidly, then there is a scare because bond investors are pulling their money out of the bond market. Bonds are actually going down, or basically they're starting to sell their bonds, and that's why the bond yields are going up. So if that happens, which was in the beginning of this year, the dollar starts to go up, and then all commodities are going down. That is now gold, oil, all of them, and also your stocks or your indexes also get affected. Now, there is a story or a case that has to do with Christine Lagarde today. Now, that is where the big question comes in. Will the dollar actually persist with this trend? Although it's a bit low today, but the big question is, will the dollar actually move higher up? That is now a big question mark. I would rather see what Christine Lagarde say today at 1:45 with the ECB statement. If she say, which I think, she will say, okay, everything is transitory and nothing is going to happen and we will do tapering, as they stick to the whole story of 2023, then that, or 2022, then that means that the euro will go down and then the stocks will go up. And there is also a possibility that the dollar will go up, and there's a possibility that the bonds in the euro area and the United States will go up, or the bond yields, will go up. Now, once that happens, that will push the dollar higher, obviously, and the euro will basically go down. I think that has all to do with the ECB statement later on, which is actually a very vital statement because there was a lot of hawks in the ECB that came out that said they need to start to taper because inflation is a bit of a threat today. Or basically, when it reached 3%, it became actually a threat. And I think, personally, inflation did not move much high, according to all of them. It's just above 2% inflation, which is their target, and it only started to happen in June. So they will say they need more evidence to say that inflation will move over or stay above 2% before they will start to do tapering. Well, although all of us know that there's a problem with transportation when it gets to goods and services or the logistics part of the transportation of goods, but for these central banks, I don't know, they just don't care. They just want to pump money in, and it looked like all of them are talking from the same script: treasury, treasury, treasury. So I think we will get possibly the same story today as treasury. So I would advise you, look first for the conference, look for opportunities there, and when you know what is going on there, I would say actually then you can start to trade. Personally, I think it will be that same old nonsense. Treasury, euro goes weaker, dollar goes up, bond yields are going up, same story, and I think the dollar will actually move higher. Now, I hope I answered your question for the British pound, but personally, when it comes to the British pound, I normally stay away there because with this whole transitory effect, it's just becoming very boring. So that is it from my side. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show, and then I will see you guys again tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Bye-bye.